Well, it's time for a follow-up video to Why Johnny Can't Come Home by Noreen Gosch. This was originally published in 2000. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the book, but I'll link at the end to the original review that I did. And big shout out to the members of the channel. It's the latest members. I think I'm up to like forget 20 something members now, and it was those funds which allowed me to make this road trip and get some of the new information that I have now. So one of the things, and I'm going to go ahead and assume if you're watching this video that you already have some knowledge of the Johnny Gosch kidnapping case, and skip ahead to the meat of this video, as it were. One of the interesting things that I found in this book was Paul Bonacci, who is important also in the Franklin scandal case, mentioned that to law enforcement when he was in prison that he had information about the Johnny Gosch case, that he had actually aided in the kidnapping of Johnny Gosch, and that he had actually been with Johnny Gosch at a house that he was taken to in the mid 80s, I think around 86, to a house around Buena Vista. And he told all of this to Noreen Gosch and her now ex-husband, John Gosch Sr., and America's Most Wanted. And when he got out of prison, he actually took a film crew from America's Most Wanted, went down with him to Colorado, and he actually showed them where the house was, and that there was an underground chamber where he claims that Johnny Gosch was held. And there's a lot of really strange stuff about that whole thing. But one of the things I wanted to talk about in this video is one of you, when I posted the picture the other day, we were talking about the Johnny Gosch case, and someone had mentioned that there is a really good podcast out there getting more into it and talking with John Gosch Sr., Johnny Gosch's dad. And I'd be really curious about that because Noreen devotes a whole chapter to John Gosch Sr., and some of his behavior before and after the abduction. And it is strange and very suspicious, to say the least. And probably the most interesting thing is his procurement of a look-alike of Noreen Gosch to actually go to the prison. He actually went with this lady here who looks like Noreen Gosch. She was a private investigator. And he took her with him to visit the prison to talk to Paul Bonacci a couple of years before Noreen knew anything about it. So there's a lot of weird stuff. So that's why she has that picture in her book of the double and then her. And at one point beat her up pretty bad. I mean, there's a lot of very strange behavior between John Gosch Sr. and his stepchildren and Johnny, and just anyway, all that. If you can run down a copy, this is an excellent book on the case. It's a heartbreaking book because there's not a there's not a clear wrap up to the whole situation. I mean, even today, nobody knows for sure where exactly Johnny Gosch is. But that leads us to this video. So Paul Bonacci in this book has mentioned, or she's quoting him in here, about the house where Johnny Gosch was taken. And this always intrigued me because anytime you have a physical location, that's something you can take and actually work with. Unlike buying a couch or a TV set or a toaster or something, those things can't really be tracked, whereas a house, you can figure out who bought and sold a house. Those property records are pretty clear. So I found it interesting that after Paul Bonacci took the America's Most Wanted crew to this house, that the trail just kind of dried up. So I've been really intrigued with that. And ever since I got this book, and there was just enough information because he didn't give a street address or anything. He just said that he could see the elephant-shaped rock from this house that was in, Colorado, close to Buena Vista. And I'm sure, like a lot of other people, I went on Google Earth and was trying to find it, and I found it. And I'd kind of forgotten about it. I marked it on Google Earth, but I couldn't find the street address. I just found the property, and because it is kind of a rural area. And Nick Bryant did a show where he tracked down the ownership of this house, and he had the same thought that I did is, gee, somebody like America's Most Wanted, they easily had the resources to run down the original owners of this house, or who at least who owned it at that time. So I went out to Buena Vista and checked out the house, and I wanted to get a feel for kind of where it is in relationship to that surrounding area and just see it for myself and share this footage with you all, because this has been one of those things that has always bothered me about a lot of ritual abuse cases, and some of the more hard-hitting cases where people will deliberately conceal certain elements of the case that would allow you to identify the perpetrators. And I don't mean this to say that the victims are lying or anything like that. Quite the contrary. It's usually law enforcement that winds up covering for the perpetrators in some of these cases. So anytime I can find a physical location like this, I think that's always worth noting and checking it out for yourself. And anyway, so here's that footage of the house. And I got a few different views so you can get a good idea of where the elephant-shaped rock is in relationship to the house. Now, the house was sold by Charles Crouch, was the owner, and he was a prison guard in Buena Vista at the time of all this stuff happening. And Nick Bryant ran down his record and found out that he actually had a record of molesting children. So there's the dude was not a nice guy, and he just happens to be the guy that owns the house when Johnny Gosch is passing through. So there's a lot of strange things there, and I think there's a lot of potential leads that could go a lot farther if more resources are put into that. And hats off to Nick Bryant for digging up the original owner, and he has a video on his channel where he actually gets Gladys Crouch, the ex-wife of Charles Crouch, the original owner of the house, the owner when the crazy stuff was taking place. He actually got her on a phone call with him, talking about the case a little bit. And she is very non-committal about what she did or did not know. But I think that's, again, a huge leap forward that confirms a big part of the story that up till now was a lot of speculation. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that footage. Again, big thanks to the members that help make that possible. It's membership on the channel. I mean, I know that that's not for everybody, but if you can do it, it helps a lot. It helps with things like this, because the more of this stuff we can look into, and the more of you that can see this information, and who knows where this stuff can lead, and who can find these videos and maybe connect some more dots on this. And one last thing I would like to point out, obviously this house was sold, I believe in '94, according to Nick Bryant. And who knows if it's been sold again or again since then. But obviously the owners of the house now have no relationship, at least that I know of, to the happenings of the Johnny Gosch case or anything else. So I was respectful of their privacy and stayed out of that. To me, though, the house does have historical significance, so, hence the video. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that update, and hope that's helpful to some of you that wanted to pin down where that was. This obviously is just barely north, just outside of Buena Vista on the north side. So anyway, there you go. There's the Johnny Gosch house as it is today, but it was very curious to me that the original footage of that has been scrubbed from YouTube, at least as far as I can tell, of Paul Bonacci visiting the house later on and showing America's Most Wanted the underground room where Johnny was held, where he alleges that Johnny was held. But anyway, thanks for watching, and hope to post some more trip videos very soon.